You have heard the word Stonewall. Even if you don't know every detail of the story, you know the name. It is one of those words that has grown bigger than its literal meaning into something that stands for an entire turning point in history. The moment became the before and after, the night that cracked something open. You have probably heard that Stonewall was a riot. In the early morning hours of June 28, 1969, police raided the Stonewall Inn, a mob-owned gay bar, dimly lit and frequently raided. And instead of the usual resigned compliance, something different happened. People fought back. The crowd that spilled out onto Christopher Street that night did not scatter. It stood its ground. It threw things. It refused to be afraid. You have probably heard that Stonewall sparked the modern gay rights movement. Within months, organizations had been formed, marches, planned, a movement built that would spend the next 5 decades transforming the legal and social landscape for LGBTQ people around the world. You may have even heard some of the names most associated with that night. Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, 2 trans women of color who are now rightfully among the most celebrated figures in LGBTQ history. But here is what you probably have not heard. The full role of the women, the lesbian women alongside the trans women, the street kids, the drag queens, the gender non-conforming people of every description who were in that bar, on that street, in that crowd, who threw things and screamed and held their ground, and in the days and weeks and months after, built the organizations that turned one night of rage into a lasting movement. History has a habit of tidying its stories, of finding a clean narrative with a clear set of heroes and a clear beginning and a clear arc. The actual events of history are always messier than that, more complicated, more collective, more dependent on the contributions of people who don't fit the narrative as neatly as we might like. The story of Stonewall, the real story. The one with all the complicated, difficult, extraordinary people actually in it is messier than the version most people know, and the women in it deserve to be named. Title card: The night they erased the women who started it all. Hold, then begin. To understand Stonewall, you have to understand the world that made it inevitable. Stonewall did not come from nowhere. It came from decades of accumulated rage. Decades of raids and arrests and humiliation and loss built the pressure that led to Stonewall. A community had been told by law and by force and by daily cruelty that it did not have the right to exist in public. In the United States in the 1960s, homosexuality was classified as a mental illness by the American Psychiatric Association. That classification had real legal consequences for gay and lesbian people. People could be involuntarily committed to psychiatric institutions because of their sexual orientation. A judge could strip a lesbian mother of her children on grounds of mental illness. Employers could fire someone for being gay and label it a mental health concern rather than discrimination. In most American states, same-sex intimacy between consenting adults was a criminal offense. You could be arrested for it, tried for it, and imprisoned for it. There were laws that targeted how LGBTQ people presented themselves in public. One New York law required people to wear a minimum number of items of clothing appropriate to their birth sex. This was enforced with particular enthusiasm in Greenwich Village, where many gender non-conforming people lived. If police decided to raid a gay bar, they could arrest virtually everyone inside. Women who dressed outside strict norms could be taken, as could men, trans women, and drag queens. Raids happened regularly, not occasionally, in the years before Stonewall. The typical pattern was lights flashing, then arrests, then names printed in newspapers. Employers and families would learn those names and lives could be damaged or destroyed. And still people kept showing up because where else were they going to go? The gay and lesbian bars of Greenwich Village were the only spaces where people could be themselves. 2 women could hold hands there, and men could kiss other men without being immediately targeted. People who did not fit the gender binary could exist there without constant harassment. The bars were survival, and the raids were an attack on survival itself. By 1969, a pressure had been building in the community for a long time. It was not an organized plan, but a mounting pressure from people who had learned to comply to survive. People began to wonder whether compliance was actually keeping them safe. They began to understand that raids and arrests were not going to stop on their own. Maybe a different response was possible, and that pressure released at Stonewall. The way it released mattered in part because of who was in that bar that night. That is the part of the story we will spend the most time on today. The Stonewall Inn itself was not by any objective measure a nice bar. It was owned by the Genovese crime family as part of mob control over many gay bars. The drinks were notoriously watered down and glasses were sometimes not properly cleaned. The plumbing was unreliable and the lights were kept low to make identification harder during raids. There was no running water behind the bar and ice was delivered daily to chill drinks. Mob owners bribed the local precinct so the bar could operate with advance warning of raids. Before we get to the events of the night, I want to spend time with the people inside. One way history gets distorted is through simplification, reducing a complex crowd to a few figures. That simplification is understandable for storytelling, but it makes many people invisible. The Stonewall Inn on the night of June 28, 1969, contained hundreds of people. Trans women were there, many of them women of color and many quite young. Some were teenagers who had been thrown out of their homes and were surviving on the streets. They survived through ingenuity, community solidarity, and the grace of places like the Stonewall. Femme-presenting men and drag queens populated the room, showing a spectrum of gender presentation. People occupied every point outside the legal male-female binary the law tried to enforce. Gay men were there too, white, black, Puerto Rican, locals, and visitors alike. And there were lesbian women who came because the Stonewall let them be visible and part of the community. In mainstream accounts, these women are often peripheral, mentioned only briefly or seen as background. That portrayal does not accurately reflect their presence or their role. Let me tell you about some of them.
Now, we need to talk about Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. Their story intersects with the story of the women at Stonewall in a way that is complicated. That intersection has been the subject of debate, distortion, and sometimes genuine dishonesty over decades. Marsha P. Johnson was a black trans woman, a drag queen, a performer, and an activist. She was one of the most beloved figures in the history of Greenwich Village. She was homeless for much of her adult life and survived through sex work. She was a regular at the Stonewall, and she was present during the uprising. Sylvia Rivera was a Venezuelan and Puerto Rican trans woman. At the time of Stonewall, she was around 17 years old. She was also homeless and surviving through sex work. She too was a regular at Stonewall. Both women are now celebrated as central figures of Stonewall and the broader gay rights movement. That celebration is deserved because both were extraordinary and devoted activists. Both were treated in the decades after Stonewall by parts of the movement in ways that were deeply unjust. There is a complication in how their role in Stonewall is remembered. From the 1990s, many accounts identified them as having thrown the first punch or similar claims. The problem is both women placed themselves at different points during the uprising in their own accounts. Sylvia sometimes said she was there from the beginning, and sometimes said she arrived later. Marsha is quoted saying she did not arrive until later in the evening. This does not diminish their role. Their presence and activism afterwards were real and significant. The mythology of a single person who started it may be just that, mythology. The truth appears more collective and more interesting. A crowd pushed too far. A woman in handcuffs asking why no one was doing anything helped galvanize people. Together without planning, people decided that tonight was different. The first stone was thrown by everyone who had never thrown one before. The night of June 28th was one night, but what made it Stonewall was what happened afterward. Lesbian women played a central role in the days and months after, in ways often absent from standard accounts. Community members began meeting, organizing, and asking how to turn that night into something lasting. The Gay Liberation Front was formed within weeks of the uprising. It was explicitly mixed, with gay men and lesbian women organizing and fighting together. Women like Martha Shelley, Ellen Shumsky, and Martha Altman appear in meeting notes and early literature. These women gave time, energy, and political clarity to build something from that summer night. Martha Shelley helped organize the first public meeting and wrote important early literature. She marched, organized, and built, yet she is largely unknown today.
The uprising at the Stonewall Inn did not end with the first night. The following night, June 29th, the crowd returned. Larger this time, word had spread through the village and through community networks without social media. People spread the word by phone, in person, and through the urgent grapevine. The second night was more organized than the first. Some people had shown up knowing it was a protest, not just witnesses. Speeches were made, chants rose up. The formal vocabulary of political demonstration mixed with raw energy. The nights continued for several days. Each one was slightly different. Each one extended the conversation from the street into something larger. Remarkably quickly, the conversation moved from the street into rooms. Meeting rooms and living rooms became the urgent infrastructure of political organization. Within weeks, the Gay Liberation Front was formed. Within a year, the first gay pride marches took place in New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Chicago. What had been a single night in Greenwich Village became, with extraordinary speed, a national movement. That speed did not happen by magic. It happened because people in the street knew how to organize as well as how to be angry. Many of those people were women. If lesbian women were present at Stonewall and in the organizations that followed, why are they largely absent from the standard historical account? This is not an accident. The erasure of women from the history of Stonewall happened through several overlapping processes. Understanding those processes matters for recovering the history and for understanding how history gets distorted. The women at Stonewall didn't vanish. The cameras just didn't know how to see them. Lesbian women in feminine dress blended into the crowd. They looked like bystanders to the journalists who didn't know the community. So the recording apparatus missed them entirely. This is how women disappear from history. Not through exclusion, through the failure to see them in the first place.